You should leave, he said bluntly. Mirabel straightened, refusing to let his hostility intimidate her. This is my home now, she replied calmly. If you have a problem with that, take it up with your father. Dominic scoffed. You don't belong here. You are nothing but a gold digger. Mirabel's temper fled, but she kept her voice steady. You don't know anything about me, Dominic. Whatever issues you have with your father, don't take them out on me. He glared at her, his fist clenching at his sides. This isn't over. The morning sun peeked through the curtains of the small apartment Mirabel and Lizzie shared, casting a golden glow over the neatly arranged living room. A humble home by most standards, it was a testament to the hard work and determination of the two young women who had moved from their village to Lagos in pursuit of better opportunities. The faint aroma of toast wafted through the air as Lizzie hummed softly in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. Mirabel, still in her room, was meticulously going over the details of her work presentation. Today was a big day. Mirabel had always been a determined woman. Her journey from the dusty parts of their village to the bustling streets of Lagos had not been an easy one. She had endured countless challenges, from sleepless nights studying by candlelight to working multiple jobs to fund her education. But now, as a marketing executive in a reputable firm, her efforts were finally paying off. Lizzie, on the other hand, was a teacher. While her job didn't bring in much money, her love for children and education made her feel fulfilled. Mirabel, breakfast is ready, Lizzie's voice called out cheerfully from the kitchen. I'll be there in a minute, Mirabel replied, stuffing her notes into her bag. She adjusted her skirt and gave herself a final once over in the mirror. Her neatly braided hair framed her oval face, and her outfit, a modest navy blue skirt suit, highlighting her professional demeanor. As she entered the dining room, Lizzie greeted her with a warm smile. Today is the big day, huh? Are you nervous? Mirabel sat down and took a sip of her tea before replying. A little bit, but I've prepared well. If everything goes as planned, this could mean a promotion. Lizzie's eyes lit up. You deserve it, Mirabel. You've worked so hard for this. I'm sure your boss will be impressed. They ate quickly, chatting about their plans for the day. Lizzie's energy was infectious, and it helped Mirabel shake off her nerves. As she left the apartment, Lizzie shouted after her, Don't forget to smile. It's your secret weapon. The streets of Lagos were already alive with activity. Horns blared, vendors shouted, and the air buzzed with the relentless energy of the city. Mirabel navigated the chaos with practiced ease, her mind focused on the presentation she was about to deliver. The presentation went better than Mirabel had expected. Her boss, Mr. Dada, had nodded approvingly throughout, and by the time she finished, the room erupted in applause. She had barely returned to her desk when Mr. Dada called her into his office. Mirabel, he began, his tone serious but kind. Your work today was exceptional. It's clear you are dedicated and innovative. I'm pleased to inform you that you've been promoted to senior marketing executive. Mirabel's heart swelled with pride. She thanked him profusely, her voice trembling with emotion. As she stepped out of his office, her colleagues congratulated her, but her thoughts were already on Lizzie. She couldn't wait to share the news. As she left the building later that day, her phone buzzed with a message from Lizzie, asking if she wanted to celebrate at home or go out. Smiling at the thought, Mirabel was so engrossed in her reply that she didn't notice the man walking towards her until they collided. Oh, I'm so sorry, Mirabel exclaimed, looking up to see a distinguished older man. He was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his silver hair and confident demeanor radiating wealth and authority. No need to apologize, young lady, the man replied, his voice warm and smooth. I wasn't paying attention either. Mirabel quickly picked up her bag and straightened her clothes. The man extended a hand to help her. I'm Chief Okena. He introduced himself. Mirabel, she replied, shaking his hand. There was something about his demeanor that put her at ease. You seem to be in a hurry, he noted, his gaze lingering on her face as if trying to read her thoughts. I just got promoted, she said, the words spilling out before she could stop herself. I was testing my friend to share the news. Chivokenwa smiled. Congratulations! It's always inspiring to see young people making strides in their careers. Here, take my card. If you ever need advice or assistance, don't hesitate to reach out. Mirabel hesitated for a moment before accepting the card. She thanked him and continued on her way, her heart racing for reasons she couldn't quite understand. By the time Mirabel got home, Lizzie had already set the stage for their small celebration. A bottle of cheap wine sat on the table, surrounded by plates of jollof rice and fried chicken. Look at you, all grown up and successful, Lizzie teased, raising her glass in a mock toast. Mirabel laughed. Her earlier encounter with Chief Okena was still fresh in her mind. She decided to tell Lizzie about it, and by the time she finished, Lizzie was practically squirming with excitement. A wealthy, charming older man just happens to bump into you on the day you got promoted. This is a sign, Mirabel. Oh, please, Mirabel replied, rolling her eyes. It was just a coincidence. He probably won't even remember me. Lizzie wasn't convinced. You never know. Life has a funny way of surprising us. Now, let's toast to your success and to new beginnings. They clinked their glasses, their laughter filling the room. For the first time in a long while, Mirabel allowed herself to dream of a brighter future, one where hard work and perhaps a little luck could change everything. The following Monday, Mirabel was back at work, her promotion already bringing new possibilities and responsibilities. She was in the middle of drafting a report when her phone rang. Glancing at the screen, she saw an unfamiliar number. She hesitated before answering. Hello, this is Mirabel, she said cautiously. Hello, Mirabel. This is Chief Okena. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Mirabel was stunned. She had almost forgotten about their encounter. Not at all, Chief. How can I help you? I was wondering if you would allow me the pleasure of taking you out for dinner. It's not every day one meets someone as driven and accomplished as you. I would like to get to know you better. Mirabel's first instinct was to decline, but something about his tone made her pause. He sounded genuine, not like someone looking for a fleeting romance. She thought of Lizzie's words about life surprises and decided to take a chance. All right, Chief, dinner it is. As the day went on, Mirabel found herself thinking about her decision. She had always been cautious with matters of the heart, especially after her last relationship ended in betrayal. Her ex-boyfriend, a younger man she had loved deeply, had not only cheated on her, but also humiliated her publicly. The pain of that experience had left her wary of trusting anyone again. But Chief Okena was different. He was older, yes, but there was a maturity and steadiness about him that intrigued her. She couldn't deny that she felt a spark of curiosity, a desire to see where this might lead. When she got home that evening, Lizzie was waiting eagerly. So what's the verdict? She asked, practically bouncing with excitement. Mirabel sighed. He called and asked me to dinner. I said yes. Lizzie's squeal to delight could probably be heard by their neighbors. This is it, Mirabel. This is the start of something amazing. I can feel it. Mirabel couldn't help but laugh. Lizzie's optimism was infectious. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's just dinner. Lizzie wagged a finger at her. Mark my words, Mirabel. This is no ordinary dinner. The days leading up to the dinner with Chief Okena passed in a blur for Mirabel. Between her new responsibilities at work and Lizzie's relentless teasing, she barely had time to process the whirlwind of emotions she felt. Excitement, curiosity, and a lingering sense of caution mingled together, leaving her both eager and apprehensive about the evening. Saturday finally arrived, and Mirabel found herself standing in front of her modest wardrobe, deliberating over what to wear. She wasn't one to overthink her outfits, but this dinner felt different. She wanted to strike a balance between looking elegant and staying true to her simple style. After much contemplation, she settled on a knee-length emerald green dress that hugged her figure in all the right places without being overly revealing. She paired it with simple black heels and minimal jewelry, her hair styled neatly into a bun. "You look stunning," Lizzie said, leaning against the door frame with a mischievous grin. "If he doesn't fall head over heels for you tonight, then he must be blind." Mirabel rolled her eyes, her nerves making her fidgety. "It's just dinner, Lizzie. Let's not make a big deal out of it." "Dinner with a wealthy, charming older man who clearly sees something special in you," Lizzie corrected. "This is a big deal, Mirabel. Don't downplay it." Mirabel took a deep breath, giving herself a final glance in the mirror before heading out. Chief Okena had insisted on sending a driver to pick her up, a gesture that felt both thoughtful and overwhelming. As the sleek black car pulled up in front of their apartment, Mirabel couldn't help but feel a punch of self-doubt. Was she really ready for this? The restaurant was nothing like Mirabel had ever experienced. Nestled in one of Lagos' upscale neighborhoods, it exuded sophistication and elegance. The warm glow of chandeliers reflected off polished wood and pristine tablecloths, while soft classical music played in the background. A waiter greeted her at the entrance, guiding her to a private table where Chief Okena was already seated. He rose to his feet as she approached, his smile warm and welcoming. "Mirabel, you look absolutely radiant," he said, pulling out a chair for her. "Thank you," she replied, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "This place is beautiful. I thought it would be fitting for someone as extraordinary as you," he said, his words laced with sincerity. The waiter arrived shortly after, presenting the menu and taking their drinks order. Mirabel noticed how effortlessly Chief Okena interacted with the staff, his tone polite yet authoritative. It was clear that he was a man accustomed to commanding respect, but he did it with so much grace. As they waited for their meals, Chief Okena began asking her about her life, her upbringing, her career, her aspirations. Mirabel found herself opening up in a way she hadn't expected. She spoke of her humble beginnings in the village, her struggles to make it through university, and the pride she felt in her achievements. "You are remarkable, Mirabel," he said after she finished. "It takes a special kind of resilience to overcome the obstacles you faced. I admire that about you." Mirabel felt her cheeks flush at the compliment. "I wouldn't have made it this far without the support of my friend Lizzie," she said. "She's been my rock through everything." Chief Okena nodded thoughtfully. "It's important to have people who believe in you. But don't downplay your own strength, Mirabel. You are a force to be reckoned with." As the evening progressed, Mirabel began to feel more at ease. Chief Okena had a way of making her feel seen and valued, something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Her previous relationship had left her with deep scars, and the thought of trusting someone again had seemed impossible. But there she was with a man who not only respected her boundaries, but also genuinely appreciated her for who she was. At one point during the conversation, Chief Okena shared a bit about his own life. He spoke of his late wife, a woman he described as his soulmate, and the challenges of raising a son on his own. There was a hint of sadness in his eyes as he recounted those memories, but it was clear that he had found a way to channel his grief into building a successful life. "I believe everything happens for a reason," he said. "The people we meet, the experiences we go through, they all shape us into who we are meant to be. I see that strength in you, Mirabel. It's rare and beautiful." His words struck a chord with her. For so long, she had carried the weight of her past as a burden, something to hide rather than embrace. But in that moment, She realized that her struggles had also made her resilient, capable of facing whatever challenges life threw her way. After dinner, Chief Okena suggested a walk through the nearby gardens. The night air was cool and refreshing, the distant hum of the city providing a soothing backdrop. They strolled along the winding paths, their conversation flowing effortlessly. Mirabel found herself laughing at his dry wit and clever observations, her earlier apprehensions melting away. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt so at ease in someone's company. As they reached a quiet corner of the garden, Chief Okena turned to her, his expression serious yet gentle. I hope tonight had given you a glimpse of who I am, Mirabel. I don't believe in rushing things, but I also don't believe in wasting time. You are an incredible woman, and I would be honored to get to know you better. His words hung in the air, their sincerity undeniable. Mirabel felt a surge of emotions, gratitude, admiration, and a hint of fear. She had spent so long guiding her heart that the thought of letting someone in felt both exhilarating and terrifying. I'd like that too, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. The car ride to her apartment was quiet, but it was a comfortable silence. Mirabel replayed the evening in her mind, from the elegance of the restaurant to the candidness of their conversation. She couldn't help but smile at the thought of Chief Okewa's warmth and wisdom. When they arrived at her apartment, he walked her to the door, his gentlemanly demeanor never wavering. Thank you for tonight, she said. It was unforgettable. The pleasure was mine. He replied, good night, Mirabel. As she watched him drive away, a part of her couldn't believe what had just happened. She leaned against the door, a mix of emotions swelling inside her. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel hopeful, hopeful for what the future might hold. Later that night, as Mirabel sat on her bed, she couldn't help but think of how much her life had changed in such a short time. Just 2 weeks ago, she had been focused solely on her career, determined to build a life of stability and success. But now, the possibility of love, genuine love, seemed within reach. She knew it wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, doubts, and perhaps even heartbreak along the way. But for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to take that leap of faith. As she drifted off to sleep, her mind filled with thoughts of Chief Okenwa, she whispered to herself, maybe this is the start of something beautiful. The days following the dinner with Chief Okenwa were a whirlwind of activity and emotions. At work, her new responsibilities kept her busy, but her mind often drifted back to that evening. She found herself replaying their conversations in her head, his kind words and thoughtful gestures filling her with a sense of warmth she hadn't felt in many years. Chief Okenwa, true to his words, didn't rush things. Instead, he allowed their connection to develop naturally. He would call her occasionally, their conversations light-hearted and easy. And once in a while, he would send her thoughtful messages or small gifts. A bouquet of fresh lilies, her favorite flowers, appeared on her desk one morning, leaving her colleagues whispering and teasing her playfully. Mirabel, though embarrassed, couldn't hide the small smile that touched at her lips. One evening, as Mirabel was wrapping up her work for the day, her phone buzzed with a message. It was from Chief Okenwa. Good evening, Mirabel. I hope this message finds you well. I was wondering if you would like to join me for a casual dinner at my home this Saturday. Nothing fancy, just a quiet evening. Let me know if you are free. Mirabel stared at the screen, her heart pounding. The invitation felt personal, more intimate than their previous encounters. She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she was ready to take this step. But then she remembered the sincerity in his eyes, the respect he had shown her from the beginning. Taking a deep breath, she replied, good evening, Chief. Thank you for the invitation. I'll be happy to join you. The rest of the week flew by in a blur. Lizzie, of course, was thrilled when Mirabel told her about the invitation. This is it, she said excitedly. You are getting to see the real him, not just the polished public version. Mirabel laughed, though her nerves were beginning to show. It's just dinner, Lizzie. Let's not jump to conclusions. But even as she said the words, She couldn't help but feel a flicker of anticipation. Saturday arrived, and Mirabel found herself standing in front of Chief Okena's sprawling estate. The house was magnificent, a blend of modern architecture and traditional Nigerian elements. She felt a pang of self-consciousness as she walked up the stone pathway, clutching a small bottle of wine she had brought as a gift. The door was opened by a maid, who greeted her warmly and led her into the living room. The space was just as elegant as she had imagined, with high ceilings, tasteful artworks, and plush furniture. Chief Okena appeared moments later, dressed in a simple yet stylish outfit that made him look even more approachable. "Mirabel," he said, his smile genuine, "I'm so glad you could make it. Please make yourself at home." She handed him the bottle of wine, which he accepted graciously. Before settling into one of the armchairs, they chatted for a while, the conversation flowing effortlessly, before he led her to the dining room where a beautifully set table awaited. The meal was a feast of Nigerian delicacies: jollof rice, peppered fish, and an assortment of sides. It was clear that a lot of thought had gone into preparing the evening, and Mirabel couldn't help but feel touched by the efforts. As they ate, Chief Okena began to open up about his life. He spoke of his journey from humble beginnings to becoming a successful businessman, the challenges he had faced along the way, and the lessons he had learned. There was a quiet strength in his voice, a determination that mirrored her own struggles. She found herself drawn to his story, inspired by his resilience and wisdom. "I've always believed that success is not just about wealth or status," he said at one point. "It's about the impact we have on our lives or the life of others. That is what really matters." Mirabel nodded, his words resonating with her deeply. "I think that's what I admire most about you, Chief. You've achieved so much. You've never lost sight of what is important." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the words seemed to fade away. It was a connection that went beyond words, a meeting of two souls who understood each other's struggles and dreams. After dinner, Chief Okena offered to show Mirabel around the house. They wandered through the halls, each room telling a story of its own. One room in a particular caught Mirabel's attention, a small study filled with books and photographs. As they entered, she noticed a picture of a woman on the desk. "That's my late wife, Adora," Chief Okena said softly, his expression tinged with sadness. "She was my anchor, my partner in every sense of the word. Losing her was the hardest thing I've ever faced." Mirabel felt a lump in her throat as she looked at the photograph. Adora was beautiful, her smile radiating warmth and kindness. "She must have been an incredible woman," she said. "She was," he replied, "and she taught me the value of love and partnership. It's a lesson I carry with me every day." They continued their tour, eventually ending up in the garden. The night air was cool and fragrant. The sound of crickets filled the silence. They sat on a wooden bench, the conversation turning to lighter topics. Mirabel found herself laughing at his stories, her earlier nerves completely forgotten. As the evening came to an end, Chief Okena walked Mirabel to the car, waiting to take her home. "Thank you for coming, Mirabel," he said. "It means a lot to me." "Thank you for having me," she replied. "Tonight was unforgettable." He smiled, his gaze warm and steady. "I hope we can do this again sometime." As she drove away, Mirabel couldn't help but reflect on the evening. There was a sincerity to Chief Okena that she hadn't expected, a depth that made her feel safe and valued. For the first time in years, she felt a glimmer of hope, a hope that maybe, just maybe, this could be the start of something extraordinary. Back at her apartment, Mirabel recounted the evening to Lizzie, who listened intently, her excitement evident. "It sounds like he's the real deal, Mirabel," Lizzie said. "A man like that doesn't come around often." Mirabel nodded, her thoughts racing. "I know, Lizzie, but it's still early. I don't want to get ahead of myself." Even as she said the words, she couldn't ignore the feeling growing in her heart, a feeling that perhaps, against all odds, she had found someone who truly understood her. As she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, she whispered to herself, maybe this is my second chance at happiness. The morning sunlight spilled into the apartment, waking Mirabel from a dreamless sleep. She turned over, her thoughts still filled with the previous evening. Dinner at Chief Okena's home had been nothing short of miracle. The warmth of his personality, his humility despite his wealth, and the gentle way he spoke about his past left an impression on her. It was unlike anything she had experienced before. Lizzie, sitting at the dining table and scrolling through her phone, looked up as Mirabel shuffled into the room. Good morning, future madam of the house, she teased with a grin. Mirabel rolled her eyes and headed for the kettle to make tea. Lizzie, stop. It's just dinner. Don't make it into something it is not. But it is something, Mirabel. Don't pretend you don't feel it, Lizzie said, her tone softening. The way you talked about him last night, it's clear he's not just another man. He is special. Mirabel paused, staring into her cup of steaming tea. Lizzie wasn't wrong. There was something about Chief Okena that felt different. But admitting that out loud felt like opening a door she wasn't sure she was ready to walk through. As the days turned into weeks, Mirabel and Chief Okena's connection deepened. He didn't overwhelm her with constant messages or grand gestures. Instead, he showed his interest through thoughtful acts. Once, he sent her a book she had mentioned wanting to read, accompanied by a handwritten note. Another time, he had flowers delivered to her office with a simple message, wishing you a great day, Mirabel. Okena. Each gesture was subtle yet meaningful, making her feel seen and valued. Her colleagues at work had started noticing too. Mirabel, you are glowing. One of them teased. What's the secret? A promotion or a new man? Mirabel laughed it off, but deep down, she knew it was a combination of both. At the same time, her relationship with Lizzie remained her anchor. Every evening, they would sit together, talking about their day and laughing about the little things in life. Lizzie's unwavering support reminded Mirabel of how far they had come together. From the dusty village roads to the bustling streets of Lagos, it was a bond she treasured deeply. One Friday evening, Mirabel was in her room organizing her closet when her phone buzzed. It was Chief Okena. Good evening, Mirabel. I was wondering if you are free tomorrow. I would love to take you somewhere special. Mirabel's heart skipped a beat. He had never mentioned taking her out that week. She typed a quick reply. Good evening, Chief. I'm free. What do you have in mind? His response came swiftly. It's a surprise. I'll pick you up at 3 p.m. The rest of the evening was a mix of excitement and curiosity. Where could he possibly be taking her? Lizzie, as usual, was quick to offer her 2 cents. Maybe it's a fancy restaurant, or perhaps a beach resort. Whatever it is, dress your best. The next day, Mirabel chose a simple yet elegant outfit, a white blouse paired with a navy blue skirt. As the clock struck 3 p.m., a sleek car pulled up in front of their apartment. Chief Okena stepped out, dressed casually but still looking every bit the refined man she had come to know. You look lovely, he said as she approached, opening the car door for her. Thank you, she replied, feeling a warmth spread through her cheeks. The drive was pleasant, filled with light conversations and the hum of soft music playing in the background. Mirabel tried to guess their destination, but Chief Okena remained tight-lipped, his smile teasingly mysterious. When they finally arrived, Mirabel was surprised to find herself in front of a modest-looking orphanage. Children's laughter echoed from the courtyard, where a group of kids played soccer. She turned to Chief Okena, her brows furrowed in confusion. I thought it might be a nice one to spend time with them here, he explained. This place holds a special meaning for me. I've supported it for many years, and I thought you might like to see it. Mirabel was touched. She hadn't expected this. I would love to, she said, her voice soft. The next few hours was nothing short of heartwarming. Chief Okena introduced her to the staff and some of the children, who greeted her with wide smiles and curious eyes. Together, they handed out toys, books, and snacks that Chief Okena had brought along. Mirabel found herself drawn to the children, their laughter and innocence reminding her of simpler times. One little girl, no older than 6 years, clung to Mirabel's hands as they walked through the courtyard. Auntie, are you Chief's wife? The girl asked innocently, her big eyes staring up at her. Mirabel laughed nervously, shaking her head. No, sweetie, I'm just a friend. But you are pretty, like a princess, the girl said with a grin, skipping off before Mirabel could respond. Later, as they sat under a tree watching the children play, Chief Okena turned to her. You have a natural way with them, he said. It's rare to see someone connect so easily. I suppose it's because I see a bit of myself in them, she admitted. Growing up wasn't easy. There were times when I felt like the world was against me. But seeing their smiles, it reminds me that there is always hope. Chief Okena nodded, his expression thoughtful. That's what I admire about you, Mirabel. You've turned your struggles into strength. It's a quality not many possesses it. As the sun began to set, they said their goodbyes to the children and staffs, promising to return soon. The drive back to Mirabel's house was quiet, the day's events lingering in their minds. When they arrived, Chief Okena walked her to the door, his demeanor as gentlemanly as ever. Thank you for today, Mirabel said. It was beautiful. The pleasure was mine, he replied. I hope we can do it again and again and again. And they both laughed out loudly. As they drove away, Mirabel felt a newfound respect for him. He wasn't just a wealthy man, he was a man with a kind heart, someone who genuinely cared about making a difference. That night, as she sat on her bed, Mirabel found herself thinking about the path her life had taken. Meeting Chief Okena had been unexpected, but it had brought a sense of purpose and warmth she hadn't realized she was missing. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she was part of something bigger, a connection that went beyond words. And though she didn't know what the future held, she was ready to take it one step at a time. The days after the visit to the orphanage left Mirabel feeling more connected to Chief Okena. The kindness he had shown to the children and the quiet strength he carried in his actions made her respect him even more. She found herself looking forward to his calls and the thoughtful moments they shared. Slowly, without realizing it, her guard was coming down. Lizzie noticed the change immediately. Mirabel, you are different these days, she said one evening as they sat on the couch, happier, lighter. Mirabel gave a small smile. I guess I have a lot to be thankful for. Lizzie leaned closer. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if this man asked you to marry him soon. Lizzie, Mirabel exclaimed, half laughing, half shocked. Don't be ridiculous. We've only just started getting to know each other. Maybe, but a man like that doesn't waste time when he knows what he wants, Lizzie said with a shrug. Mark my words. Mirabel tried to brush off Lizzie's comment, but a small part of her couldn't help but wondered if there was some truth to it. A week later, Chief Okena called Mirabel with an unexpected invitation. Mirabel, he said, his voice warm. I was thinking it might be nice to get away from the city for a bit. There is a quiet resort just outside Lagos that I think you would love. Would you join me this weekend? Mirabel hesitated for a moment. A trip felt more personal, more intimate, but there was a gentleness in his tone that put her at ease. That sounds lovely, she replied. On Saturday morning, a car arrived to pick her up. As they drove through the city and into the countryside, Mirabel found herself relaxing. The hustle and noise of Lagos faded into the background, replaced by the serene beauty of green fields and blue skies. The resort was breathtaking, a collection of cozy villas surrounded by lush gardens and a sparkling lake. Chief Okena greeted her warmly when she arrived, showing her a private villa with a view of the water. I wanted this weekend to be special for you, he said simply. The weekend unfolded like a dream. They spent the mornings exploring the gardens and taking quiet walks by the lake. In the afternoons, they shared long conversations over meal, talking about everything from their childhood to their hopes for the future. Mirabel found herself opening up in ways she hadn't before, sharing stories she had kept locked away for years. One evening, as the sun set over the lake, Chief Okena invited her to a private dinner under the stars. The table was set on a wooden deck by the water, lit by soft candles and adorned with fresh flowers. Mirabel was stunned by the beauty of it all. "This is incredible," she said, her voice filled with awe. "You deserve incredible." "Mirabel," he said, his eyes holding hers. They talked and laughed through the meal, the gentle sound of the lake adding to the magic of the evening. Suddenly, Chief Okenwa's demeanor changed slightly. He looked at her with a seriousness that made her heart skip a beat. "Mirabel," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I never expected to meet someone like you. You've brought light into my life in a way I didn't think was possible. Your strength, your kindness, your beauty, it's all so rare." Mirabel felt her cheeks flush, her breath catching as he continued. "I know we haven't known each other for a very long time, but I also know that what I feel for you is real. I don't want to wait to start the next chapter of my life. I want to share it with you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, opening it to reveal a delicate diamond ring. "Mirabel, will you marry me?" For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. Mirabel stared at the ring, her mind racing with thoughts and emotions. She hadn't expected this, at least not as soon. But as she looked into Chief Okenwa's eyes, she saw nothing but sincerity and love. "I," she began, her voice trembling. "Chief, this is so unexpected." "I understand," he said gently. "Take your time, Mirabel. I don't want you to feel rushed. I just needed you to know how I feel." That night, Mirabel sat on the balcony of her house, staring out at the moonlight lake. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. Chief Okenwa was everything she had ever hoped for in a partner: kind, respectful, understanding. But the scars of her past still lingered, making her question if she was ready to take such a big step. She thought about her ex-boyfriend, the betrayal that had shattered her trust, and the fear of being hurt again. But then she remembered the moments she had shared with Chifokenwa, the way he listened to her, the effort he put into making her feel valued. He was different, she realized. He had shown her nothing but respect and patience. The next morning, as they walked by the lake, Mirabel finally found the courage to speak. "Chief," she said softly, "your proposal, it means so much to me, but there is something I need you to understand." He turned to her, his expression attentive and calm. "Of course, Mirabel, tell me." "I've been hurt before," she admitted, "and it made it hard for me to trust. If we are going to do this, I need to take things slow. I need to be sure." Chief Okenwa nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Mirabel, I would wait a lifetime for you if that's what it took. I want you to feel safe and secure with me. Take all the time you need." His words eased the tension in her heart. She smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her. "Thank you, Chief," she said simply. By the end of the weekend, Mirabel felt a sense of clarity she hadn't expected. While she hadn't given Chief Okenwa an answer yet, she knew that she was willing to explore the possibility of a future with him. As they drove back to Lagos, she felt a quiet sense of hope, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, she had found the partner she had been searching for. As she got back to her apartment that day, Mirabel shared everything with Lizzie, her friend. She listened intently, her excitement tempered by genuine concern. "Mirabel," Lizzie said finally, "this is your decision to make. But from everything you've told me, Chief Okenwa seems like a good man. Just trust your heart." And for the first time in years, Mirabel felt like she could. The days following the weekend at the resort were a mix of reflection and quiet contemplation for Mirabel. Every moment spent with Chief Okenwa lingered in her mind. His gentle words, the sincerity in his eyes when he proposed, and the way he promised to give her all the time she needed. For the first time in her life, she felt like someone truly saw her for who she was, and not just for what she could offer. Mirabel threw herself into work during the week, hoping to quit her mind. But even as she focused on meetings and deadlines, her thoughts would drift back to the moment Chief Okena opened that small velvet box. She couldn't deny that his proposal had stirred something deep within her, a sense of possibility, a future she hadn't dared to imagine. At home, Lizzie noticed Mirabel's quieter demeanor. She would watch her friend sit on the couch, lost in thought, or stare at her reflection in the mirror longer than usual. One evening, as they shared dinner, Lizzie finally spoke up. Mirabel, I know you're thinking about the proposal. She said gently, you don't have to make any decision right now. But if you are this torn, maybe it's because deep down you care about him. Mirabel nodded slowly. I do care about him, Lizzie. But it's all happening so fast. What if I'm not ready? Lizzie reached across the table and took Mirabel's hand. The right person won't rush you, Mirabel. Chief Okena has already shown that he respects your pace. Trust yourself. You will know what to do when the time is right. On Thursday afternoon, as Mirabel was wrapping up a busy day at work, a delivery man arrived at her office. He handed her a small package wrapped in elegant paper with a note attached. Curious, Mirabel opened it to find a journal with a soft leather cover. The note read, Dear Mirabel, life is a journey, and every step we take is part of the story we are writing. I thought you might like a place to capture your thoughts and dreams, no matter what you decide. I want you to know that I believe in you. Okenwa. Mirabel's heart swelled as she read the words. The gesture was simple but deeply meaningful. She ran her fingers over the journal's smooth cover, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. It was moments like this that reminded her of why she felt drawn to Chief Okenwa. He didn't just shower her with gifts, he took the time to understand her and what truly mattered to her. That weekend, Chief Okena invited Mirabel for a walk in one of Lagos' quieter parks. The green space was a refreshing escape from the city's noise, with tall trees providing shade and a gentle breeze rustling through the leaves. They strolled along the winding paths, the sounds of their footsteps blending with the chirping of birds. Mirabel took a deep breath, savoring the tranquility. This is nice, she said softly. I needed this. I thought you might, Chief Okena replied. Sometimes stepping away from the noise helps us see things more clearly. They walked in silence for a while, the stillness between them comfortable and unpressured. Mirabel appreciated that he didn't push her for an answer about the proposal. Instead, he allowed her the space to think and feel. As they reached a bench overlooking a small pond, they sat down. Chivokewa turned to her, his expression calm yet caring. Mirabel, I want you to know that no matter what you decide, I'm grateful for the time we've spent together. You've already brought so much joy into my life. Mirabel looked at him, her heart heavy with emotion. Thank you, Chief. That means a lot to me. That evening, as Mirabel sat in her room, she opened the journal Chief Okena had given her. She began to write, her thoughts pouring out onto the pages. She wrote about her fears, her hopes, and the moments that had brought her to this point. As the words flowed, she began to see her feelings more clearly. Chief Okena wasn't like anyone she had met before. She didn't just want her for what she could offer. He valued her for who she was. He had shown her patience, kindness, and understanding she had longed for but never dared to hope for. And while her past heartbreaks still haunted her, she realized that she couldn't let fear hold her back from the possibility of happiness. By the time she finished writing, the decision was clear in her heart. The following evening, Mirabel called Chief Okena. Her voice was steady, though her heart raced as she spoke. Chief, I've been thinking about your proposal, she began, and he asked, his tone gentle but expectant. I want to say yes, she said, her words firm, but I need us to take things slow. I need time to adjust and be sure. There was a pause on the other end of the line before Chief Okena replied, Mirabel, that's all I could ever ask for. Your happiness and comfort means everything to me. Thank you for trusting me with your heart. and as she entered the call, Mirabel felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had taken this step towards a new chapter in her life, one that promised hope, growth, and the possibility of love. The weeks after Mirabel's decision to marry Chief Okena flew by in a blur of preparations and heartfelt moments. Chief Okena kept his promise to let Mirabel take things at her own pace, but once she gave her answer, he couldn't hide his excitement. He had waited years to find someone who truly touched his heart, and now he was ready to make her his wife. Mirabel, on her part, still carried a mix of emotions: joy, apprehension, and disbelief. She was about to marry a man who had proven himself trustworthy and kind, a man who respected her boundaries and loved her for who she was. It felt like a dream, once she wasn't sure she deserved. But Lizzie constantly reminded her that she had earned every bit of happiness coming her way. The wedding day was a quiet, elegant affair, just as Mirabel had wanted. It was held in a private garden, surrounded by lush greenery and vibrant flowers. Only close friends and families were invited, making it intimate and heartfelt. Lizzie stood by Mirabel's side as her maid of honor, her joy for her friend evident in every smile and hug. Mirabel walked down the aisle in a simple but stunning white dress. She felt a flutter of nerves, but also an overwhelming sense of calm when she saw Chief Okena waiting for her at the altar. His gaze was steady, filled with love and admiration. As they exchanged vows, Mirabel couldn't help but feel a wave of gratitude. Chief Okena had brought light into her life when she thought it would never shine again. His words were sincere, promising to love, cherish, and respect her for the rest of his life. The ceremony ended with a gentle kiss, sealing their bond. Mirabel looked into his eyes, seeing not just a husband but a partner she could rely on. The guests cheered as they walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, ready to start their new life together. Married life with Chief Okena felt like a new chapter, one filled with unexpected joy and companionship. Mirabel quickly adapted to her new role as his wife, taking care of their home and helping him with his business. Chief Okena, true to his character, made sure Mirabel's dreams and ambitions didn't take a backseat. He encouraged her to continue excelling in her career, often reminding her of her strength and potential. One of his grand gestures was opening a supermarket in her name. "This is for you, Mirabel," he said one day as they stood in front of the grand opening. "You've worked hard for everything you have, and this is just the beginning." Mirabel was overwhelmed. "Chief, I don't know how to thank you," she said softly. "You don't have to, my dear. Your happiness is all the thanks I need." Their life together was peaceful, almost idyllic, but like every good story, changes soon appeared. A few months into their marriage, Chief Okewa's only son Dominic returned from abroad. Dominic had been living in Europe for years, building his career and exploring the world. Mirabel had heard of him in passing. Chief Okewa spoke of his son with pride, but also a hint of sadness. Dominic's visit had become infrequent over the years, leaving a noticeable gap in the family. The day Dominic arrived was one Mirabel would never forget. She was arranging flowers in the living room when she heard the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Moments later, the front door opened and a tall, confident young man stepped in, carrying a suitcase and wearing an expression that was hard to read. "Dad," Dominic called out, his voice deep and commanding. He froze when his eyes landed on Mirabel. Mirabel felt the air shift. Dominic's gaze wasn't just surprised, it was filled with something else: recognition, shock. Whatever it was, it sent a chill down her spine. Chief Okenwa appeared from his study, his face lighting up at the sight of his son. "Dominic, it's so good to see you," he said, pulling him into a warm hug. Dominic, still staring at Mirabel, barely returned the gesture. "It's been a long time," he said flatly, his eyes darting between his father and Mirabel. Chief Okenwa turned to Mirabel with a smile. "Dominic, this is Mirabel, your new stepmother." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Dominic's expression hardened, his jaw tightening. "Stepmother?" he he repeated slowly, his tone laced with disbelief. Yes, Chief Okena said, oblivious to the tension. Mirabel and I got married a few months ago. She's been a blessing to me. Dominic didn't respond. Instead, he gave Mirabel a curt nod before picking up his suitcase and heading upstairs. From that moment, the atmosphere in the house changed. Dominic avoided Mirabel whenever possible, and when they did cross paths, his demeanor was cold and distant. Mirabel, unsure of what she had done to earn his hostility, tried her best to remain polite and accommodating, but no matter how hard she tried, Dominic's attitude didn't improve. One evening, as Mirabel was preparing dinner, she overheard Dominic and Chief Okena talking in the study. Their voices were low, but the tension was unmistakable. Dad, how could you marry someone so young? Dominic asked, his tone sharp. What were you thinking? Dominic, Mirabel is my wife now, Chief Okena replied firmly. She's brought me so much happiness, and I won't let you or anyone else take that away. But do you even know who she truly is? Dominic asked. You don't know what she's capable of. There was a pause, and then Chief Okena's voice grew stern. Whatever history you think you know, it is in the past. Mirabel is the part of this family now, and you will respect her. Do you understand? Mirabel's heart pounded as she listened. What could Dominic possibly mean by history? She didn't have much time to dwell on it before Dominic stormed out of the study, his face dark with anger. Later that night, Mirabel found Dominic waiting for her in the hallway. His expression was a mix of anger and something else she couldn't quite place. Regret, perhaps. You should leave, he said bluntly. Mirabel straightened, refusing to let his hostility intimidate her. This is my home now, she replied calmly. If you have a problem with that, take it up with your father. Dominic scoffed. You don't belong here. You are nothing but a gold digger. Mirabel's temper fled, but she kept her voice steady. You don't know anything about me, Dominic. Whatever issues you have with your father, don't take them out on me. He glared at her, his fist clenching at his sides. This isn't over, he muttered before walking away. As the days turned into weeks, the tension between Dominic and Mirabel only grew. Chief Okena, caught in the middle, tried to keep the peace, but his efforts often fell short. Dominic's coldness and Mirabel's attempt to rise above it created an uneasy balance that threatened to break at any moment. Meanwhile, the household staff, particularly Ijoma the maid and Okon the gateman, couldn't help but notice the strain. They whispered among themselves, wondering what could have caused such animosity between Dominic and his new stepmother. I don't like the way Dominic looks at Madame, Ijoma said one afternoon. It's as if he knows something we don't know. Okon nodded eagerly. There is more to this story, Ijoma. Mark my words, there is more to it. For Mirabel, life in the Okena's household was becoming increasingly challenging. She had entered the marriage with hope and love, but now she faced an uphill battle to prove herself. Still, she resolved to stand her ground. She wasn't about to let Dominic's hostility overshadow the happiness she had found with Chief Okena. Deep down, though, she knew that the truth behind Dominic's anger would eventually come to light, and when it did, she could only hope it wouldn't tear the family apart. One morning, Mirabel decided to prepare breakfast for Chief Okena before he headed to a business meeting. She carefully set the table and made his favorite meal, humming softly to herself as she worked. However, when she left the kitchen briefly to fetch her phone, Dominic entered the room. His eyes swept over the neatly arranged table, and a mischievous smile crossed his face. Quietly, he poured an excessive amount of salt into the pot of soup she had prepared and stirred it quickly before leaving. When Mirabel served the meal, she noticed Chief Okena's hesitation after the first bite. Is something wrong with the food? She asked, her voice laced with concern. Chief Okena cleared his throat and shook his head, though his expression remained uneasy. It's a bit salty, he admitted gently. Mirabel frowned, puzzled. She had been careful while cooking. I don't understand. I tasted it before serving, she said, taking a spoonful herself. The overwhelming saltiness made her cough. From the corner of her eyes, she noticed Dominic, leaning against the doorway, watching them with a smug expression. Her suspicion grew, but she chose not to confront him in front of Chief Okena. Instead, she cleaned up the meal and apologized, promising to do better next time. Later that day, Mirabel found Dominic in the living room, scrolling through his phone. Dominic, she began, her tone calm but firm. Did you tamper with the food this morning? He didn't look up. What makes you think that? He asked, his voice dripping with mock innocence. I know you did, Mirabel replied. I don't know why you are doing this, but it needs to stop. Your father deserves peace in his own home. Dominic finally met her gaze, his expression hard. You don't belong here, he said coldly. You are just here for his money, and I'll do whatever it takes to expose you. Mirabel felt a surge of anger, but quickly composed herself. You are wrong about me, Dominic. I love your father, and nothing you do will change that. If you are angry, take it out on me, but don't drag him into this. Dominic's jaw tightened, but he said nothing more. He stormed out of the room, leaving Mirabel alone with her thoughts. Ijoma and Okoro, the household staffs, had been quietly observing the drama unfolding in the house. As the days passed, Dominic's attempt to make Mirabel's life difficult became more frequent. One evening, Mirabel decided to iron one of Chief Okena's favorite shirts for an event he had the next day. She placed the ironed shirt neatly on the bed before stepping out to answer a call. When she returned, she was horrified to find the shirt burned in the middle, the hot iron lying on top of it. She picked up the iron, her mind racing. She was certain she had turned it off before leaving the room. As she examined the damage, Dominic walked past the doorway, glancing at her with a smile. Is there a problem? He asked casually. Mirabel clenched her fist, her frustration bubbling to the surface. Dominic, this has to stop, she said. Your childish games are affecting your father, and he doesn't deserve this. Dominic shrugged. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you are just careless. Mirabel took a deep breath, willing herself to stay calm. One day, Dominic, your bitterness will only hurt you, she said. I suggest you think about that. Chief Okena began to notice the growing tension between Mirabel and Dominic, though neither of them openly spoke about it. The atmosphere in the house had become increasingly strained. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, he turned to Mirabel. Is everything all right? He asked gently. You've seemed a bit on edge lately. Mirabel hesitated, unsure of how to review. She didn't want to burden him with her problems, especially knowing how much he valued his relationship with Dominic. I'm fine, she said finally, just adjusting to everything. Chief Okena studied her for a moment before nodding. If there is ever anything you need to talk about, I'm here, he said. Thank you, Mirabel replied, her heart heavy with unspoken words. One night, as Mirabel walked past Dominic's room, she overheard him speaking on the phone. She paused. Her curiosity piqued when she heard her name mentioned. She's nothing but a gold digger, Dominic was saying. I know her type. She just wants to take everything from him. She's a gold digger. Mirabel's blood boiled as she listened. She had endured Dominic's hostility for weeks, but hearing him insult her so bluntly was the final straw. Without thinking, she pushed open the door. Is that what you think of me, Dominic? She demanded, her voice steady despite her anger. Dominic ended the call abruptly, his expression unreadable. You shouldn't eavesdrop, he said coldly. And you shouldn't make baseless accusations, Mirabel shot back. You don't know me, Dominic. You've made up this story in your head, and it's poisoning your relationship with your father. Dominic's eyes flashed with anger. Stay out of my business, he snapped. This isn't just your business, Mirabel replied. It's our family, and your behavior is hurting everyone. That night, as Mirabel lay in bed, she couldn't help but feel a mix of frustration and sadness. She had tried to extend kindness to Dominic, to make him see that she was not his enemy, but his refusal to let go of his anger made her wonder if peace was even possible. Deep down, she knew that the tension in the house couldn't last forever. The truth, whatever it was, would eventually come to light. And when it did, she could only hope it wouldn't tear their family apart. Dominic's resentment towards Mirabel had grown over time, and with every failed attempt to drive her out of the house, his anger deepened. His actions became more reckless, his behavior more erratic. Mirabel, though hurt by his hostility, held her ground. She refused to let Dominic ruin the happiness she had found with Chief Okena. Chief Okena, meanwhile, was becoming increasingly concerned. The tension between his wife and son was impossible to ignore, and it weighed heavily on him. He loved them both dearly and couldn't understand why they couldn't find common ground. One evening, after a particularly tense family dinner, he decided it was enough. Chief Okena called both Dominic and Mirabel into the living room. The air was heavy with unease as they sat on the opposite ends of the couch, avoiding each other's gaze. "I've had enough of this," Chief Okena began, his voice firm but calm. "I can see that something is wrong between the two of you, and it's affecting this household. I need to know what is going on." Mirabel shifted uncomfortably, unsure of how to respond. Dominic, on the other hand, remained silent, his jaw clenched. "Dominic," Chief Okena pressed, "if you have something to say, now is the time." Dominic finally looked up, his eyes filled with a mix of anger and frustration. "I don't trust her," he said bluntly. "She doesn't belong here." Chief Okena's expression darkened. "And what makes you think that? Mirabel has been nothing but kind and respectful to you." Dominic scoffed. "You don't know her like I do." The following day, Dominic's anger boiled over into something dangerous. Determined to make Mirabel leave, he decided to tamper with her drinking water. He poured a foul-smelling liquid into her glass, hoping to make her sick. But Mirabel, ever observant, noticed the unusual smell as she brought the glass to her lips. Her suspicions immediately turned to Dominic. Instead of confronting him outright, Mirabel decided to teach him a lesson. She quietly poured the tampered water into Dominic's glass and replaced it with clean water. When dinner was served that evening, Dominic took a long drink from his glass, only to choke and cough violently. "What is wrong?" Chief Okena asked, alarmed. Dominic glared at Mirabel, his face red and fury. "She poisoned me," he shouted, pointing an accusing finger at her. Mirabel calmly set down her fork, her gaze steady. "I did not do such thing. Dominic, perhaps you should think carefully about your actions before accusing others." Chief Okena looked between them, confusion etched on his face. "What is going on here, Dominic? Are you accusing Mirabel of something so serious without proof?" Dominic stammered, unable to form a coherent response. Mirabel's calm demeanor only made him angrier, and he stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. That night, Dominic paced his room, his mind racing. He couldn't shake the feeling of shame that crept over him. He had tried to harm Mirabel, but his plan had backfired spectacularly. Worse, his father was beginning to see through his lies. As he sat on the edge of his bed, memories of the past flooded his mind. He remembered the way he had treated Mirabel years ago, during their university days. He had been young and full of hope, but he had broken her spirit with his selfishness and cruelty. He had flaunted his infidelities, manipulated her emotions, and treated her like she was nothing. And now, seeing her as his stepmother was a painful reminder of the man he used to be. Dominic buried his face in his hands, the weight of his guilt pressing down on him. He had spent years running from the consequences of his actions, but now there was no escape. Mirabel's presence in his life was forcing him to confront the truth he had tried so hard to forget. The next day, Dominic's best friend, Laz, came to visit. Laz had always been the voice of reason in Dominic's life, and he could tell immediately that something was wrong. "What's going on, Dom?" Laz asked as they sat on the couch in their beautiful garden. "You look like you haven't slept in days." Dominic hesitated before speaking. "It's my father's wife," he admitted. "She's someone from my past." Laz raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Dominic sighed heavily. "We were together in the university. I treated her so badly, Laz. I don't even know how she can stand to look at me now." Laz shook his head. "Dom, you've got to make things right." Whatever happened in the past, you can't keep living like this. It's eating you alive. Dominic leaned back in his chair, the weight of last words sinking in. I don't know if she will ever forgive me, he said quietly. You won't know until you try, Lars replied, but first, you need to forgive yourself. That evening, Dominic made a decision. He couldn't keep running from his mistakes. If he wanted to move forward, he needed to confront the truth and take responsibility for his actions. He knocked on Mirabel's door. His heart pounding as he waited for her to answer. When she opened it, her expression was guarded, but there was a hint of curiosity in her eyes. Mirabel, Dominic began, his voice shaking slightly. I need to talk to you. She stepped aside, allowing him to enter. They sat across from each other, the silence between them heavy with unspoken words. I owe you an apology, Dominic said finally, for everything, not just for the way I've treated you since you married my father, but for what I did to you in the past. Mirabel's expression softened, though she remained silent. I was selfish, immature, and cruel, Dominic continued. I hurt you in ways I can never take back. And seeing you here as part of my family has forced me to confront the worst parts of myself. I'm sorry, Mirabel. Truly, I am sorry. For a moment, Mirabel didn't speak. Then she took a deep breath. Dominic, I won't lie and say it's easy to forget what you did. You hurt me deeply, but I've learned that holding on to anger only hurts me in the end. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Dominic's eyes filled with tears as he nodded. Thank you, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I promise I'll do better. The next morning, Dominic approached Chief Okena with tears in his eyes. Dad, I need to tell you something, he said. I've been awful to Mirabel, and I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want to make things right. Chief Okena listened patiently as Dominic confessed everything, their shared past, his actions, and his attempt to sabotage Mirabel. When Dominic finished, his father placed a hand on his shoulder. Dominic, we all make mistakes, Chief Okena said. What matters is that you are willing to change. I'm proud of you for taking this step. The tension that had weighed on the household for weeks finally began to lift. Dominic and Mirabel found common ground, slowly rebuilding their relationship, though the scars of the past remained. They both realized that forgiveness was the key to moving forward. The Okena household had finally found peace. The tension that once plagued the family was replaced with harmony and laughter. Chief Okena, ever the optimist, planned a small celebration to honor the blessings in their lives. Mirabel's pregnancy, the reconciliation with the family, and the bright future ahead. Mirabel stood in the kitchen, humming softly, as she prepared a bowl of fruit salad. Her growing bump was a source of immense joy, a visible sign of the new life she and Chief Okena were about to welcome. Dominic, having taken significant steps to mend his relationship with his father and Mirabel, now helped out with chores around the house. Dominic, can you carry these drinks to the garden? Mirabel asked. Of course, he replied, a soft smile on his face. Anything else you need? That's all for now, thank you, Mirabel said warmly. Though their journey had been rocky, Dominic had proven that he was ready to be a better man. The garden was beautifully decorated, with strings of fairy lights hanging from the trees and lanterns lining the pathways. Ijoma and Okon had worked tirelessly to set up the space, their pride evident as guests began to arrive. Close friends and family filled the garden, their laughter and chatter creating a lively atmosphere. Chief Okena was standing near the entrance, greeted each guest with a warm handshake. His happiness was palpable, his joy multiplied by the love and unity he now shared with his wife and son. As the evening progressed, the family gathered at the head table. Mirabel, radiant in a flowing blue gown, sat beside Chief Okena, her hand resting gently on her belly. Dominic, dressed in a simple yet elegant outfit, sat across from them, his demeanor calm and content. Chief Okena stood, raising his glass to address the crowd. My friends, tonight we celebrate the blessings life has given us. My beautiful wife Mirabel has brought light and joy into my life. And now we look forward to welcoming a new member to our family. The guests erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the garden. Mirabel blushed, her eyes shining with happiness. Chief Okena turned to Dominic, his expression filled with pride. And to my son Dominic, who has shown incredible courage and maturity in choosing to heal and grow, I am proud of the man you are becoming. Dominic nodded, a hint of emotion in his eyes as he stood to hug his father. The moment was met with more applause, a testament to the strength of their bond. As the celebration wound down, Dominic pulled Mirabel and Chief Okena aside. Dad, Mirabel, I need to talk to you. He began, his voice steady but serious. What is it, son? Chief Okena asked, concern flickering across his face. I've decided to return to Europe, Dominic said. I've been away from my business for too long, and I think it's time I refocused my energy on building my future. But more importantly, I want to give you both the space to enjoy this new chapter in your lives without any distractions. Mirabel placed a hand on his arm, her expression soft. Dominic, you will always be part of this family, but I understand, and I wish you nothing but the best. Okena nodded, his pride evident. Dominic, you've made me proud. Wherever you go, remember that this will always be your home. The following morning, Dominic packed his bags and stood at the door, ready to leave. Chief Okena and Mirabel stood beside him, their faces a mix of sadness and pride. Take care of yourself, son, Chief Okena said, pulling him into a tight embrace. I will, Dad, Dominic replied. He turned to Mirabel. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Mirabel smiled. You've earned it, Dominic. Safe travels. As Dominic's car pulled away, Mirabel and Chief Okena stood hand in hand, watching until it disappeared down the road. That evening, as the garden's lights dimmed and the house grew quiet, Chief Okena and Mirabel sat together, reflecting on the day. It feels like everything is finally falling into place, Mirabel said, resting her head on his shoulder. Chief Okena kissed her forehead. It's because we've built this together. With love and forgiveness, our future is bright, my love. In the quiet glow of the night, the Okena household stood as a symbol of resilience, love, and the power of second chances. Though their journey had been fraught with challenges, they had emerged stronger, ready to embrace the blessings that lay ahead. And as Mirabel rested her hand on her growing belly, she knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful new chapter. And so, Chief Okena and Mirabel lived happily ever after. The most important lesson in this story is that life is full of unexpected turns, but forgiveness and love can heal even the deepest wounds. The story reminds us that holding on to anger only weighs us down, while letting go and embracing peace brings light into our lives. Family, trust, and second chances are the building blocks of a happy home. When we choose to grow and learn from our mistakes, we open the door to a brighter future. Always remember, it's never too late to make things right and start anew. And with that, my dear friends, our story comes to a close. But remember, the magic of storytelling lives on, waiting to whisk us away on new adventures, where the wonders of imagination know no bounds. Goodbye for now, and may your dreams be filled with joy, wonder, and endless possibility. Thank you so much for watching. Please kindly comment, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting stories.